All right, welcome everybody. This is Financing Philadelphia's Future, a monthly conversation sponsored by the Philadelphia Public Banking Coalition. We are continuing to have conversations and uplift ideas around public banking for Philadelphia. Today, we're continuing the series of interviews with the mayoral candidates, all those folks who are vying for that pretty important job. And today, we have candidate Derek Green. Welcome, welcome. So glad you could join us. Thank you for your participation and scheduling this. I know you're very, very busy. But we're going to jump right in if that's okay.
It's fine on me.
All right. So the first question is, how will you implement and fund the Philadelphia Public Financial Authority and ensure its independence, transparency, and community focus?
Well, that's pretty straightforward considering that I introduced the legislation that was passed to create the Philadelphia Public Financial Authority. So I'll follow the tenets that me and many people on this call have put together in reference to having this entity up and running. I think it's important. It's also a very sad disappointment from this administration who failed to appoint the appropriate parties for this entity to be up and running. Imagine if the Philadelphia Public Finance Authority was available right now. We'll be far on our way to not only getting dollars to our city council budget to be able to make sure this entity is up and running, but also getting towards the goals of helping businesses, especially hard to lend to businesses, like so many Black and brown businesses that I'm familiar with as a former small business owner and former small business lender, but also other organizations like co-ops or as well as other entities. We have the Philadelphia Green Capital Corporation, which we've had many calls and conversations about. We could be working in partnership with that entity if we had vision and leadership from this administration. Unfortunately, we do not have that, but we will have that in a Green administration.
Great, great. And you started to move into the next sort of question set. We've got two questions under how are we going to finance underserved communities? For example, both public and private opportunities for investment into underserved sectors of the economy, including, like you said, Black and brown neighborhoods, small businesses, cooperatives, and affordable housing, both how it relates to the public bank, but also other initiatives, because as a mayor, you can work with lots of tools, right?
Absolutely. And one of the things I've seen, unfortunately, from not only this administration, but previous administrations, that we have various resources at the disposal of the city, but we're not providing those resources in a fully transparent way, but also communicating to small business owners as well as cooperatives regarding some of the real opportunities we have to invest in those organizations. Too often, business owners and organizations are not aware of some of the investments and opportunities we have here in the city of Philadelphia, as well as at the state level. So it's incumbent upon an administration, the Green administration, to work a much more closer collaboration with organizations like Philadelphia Association of CDCs, our local community development financial institutions, non-traditional lenders, and a number of different organizations that I worked with when I created the Philadelphia Business Lending Network as a way to grow and try to address the issue of poverty in the city of Philadelphia. And that was part of the reason why I did the work I did, working with so many partners to create the Philadelphia Public Financial Authority.
Okay, so I want to add a sort of tag question on that. Do you see a need for another department? Like we have the Department of Commerce, we have a department that deals with sort of, community organizations. What do you see a need for that or not necessarily?
Well, I don't necessarily see a need for that, but I see a need for more investment in the Commerce Department, especially as it relates to neighborhood business services. That was one of the areas, as well as the Commerce Department as a whole, which was really decimated by the Kennedy administration, especially during the financial impact and budgeting from the COVID-19 pandemic. So we have not traditionally put the dollars that we need to go into the budget for Commerce Department, as well as making sure that those small businesses and those staffers from the Commerce Department are having the resources to communicate and get the word out to small businesses and be in neighborhoods and commercial corridors all around the city of Philadelphia. I mean, this ties into public safety, because one of the best ways to address public safety is give someone a job, and the best creators of jobs are small businesses, especially when we look at the small businesses on a commercial corridor who are not getting the time and attention that they deserve.
Okay, all right. All right, now we've got a set of questions around financing for the city and improving its financial infrastructure. So what are your plans for updating the financial infrastructure in Philadelphia? For example, updating the technology and systems to bring greater transparency and efficiency to the office of the treasurer.
Well, one of the things that we have is not just the Office of the Treasurer, is this investments from technology all across all platforms within the city of Philadelphia, from the Commerce Department, the Treasurer's Office, our license and inspections department, Managing Director's Office. But we have a very unique opportunity. The fact that the Inflation Reduction Act, as well as the $1.2 trillion of the bipartisan infrastructure law, is an opportunity to invest in our city. Unfortunately, we're not aggressively going after those dollars like I've seen the other cities do. As a past president of Democratic municipal officials, as well as serving on the executive committee of the National League of Cities, we need to be following what other cities are doing. Actually, we should be taking the lead to go after those dollars, to bring them back to the city of Philadelphia, which will also free up some of our other capital dollars to make more investments in the quality of life issues we have as a city.
Can you give us an example? If we had that kind of money, what sort of fintech or technology investment would you make? What do we need here?
Well, just in reference to, like, for example, CRM software, in order to have different departments be able to see information on what's happening from revenue and L&I. I used to be co-chair of a special committee of regulatory reform and review. And the fact that many of our departments cannot communicate with each other. The fact if you're a small business owner or someone that has a unique type of business, especially like a cooperative, you send an email to the revenue department, and then you have to wait from that person to send an email to license inspection or the health department, and they can't see the trail of information that's occurring. So many other municipalities and jurisdictions use CRM software, so that way the city staff can see what's happening, what has previously transpired. That's the type of investment we need to make in our technology to make it much more transparent and open, and also allow our citizens to believe that you can get the services that you desire from our city, because I believe Philadelphians should expect more and deserve better from our city.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. Will you increase the city's list of authorized depositors to prioritize local banks and credit unions that are actively serving the local economy?
Yeah, I think that's another great perspective. When I created the Philadelphia Business Lending Network, there are a number of institutions that are there that I'm not sure if they are city depositors. We should be broadening the perspective of who can be depositors of receiving city dollars. We also need to look at some of the requirements, some that I've actually pushed back on, that are in place at the local level. Yes, there's some challenges at the state level, but at the local level, we've been a little bit too restrictive. I think we need to look at some of those opportunities to enable more depositors to be able to receive dollars from the citizens of the city of Philadelphia.
Okay. And what are your plans for promoting access by residents to economic development entities, including banks, CDFIs, and private developers?
Well, I've worked very closely with the Pennsylvania Association of CDFIs. They've done a lot of work in reference to helping community-based community development financial institutions around not only the city of Philadelphia, but around the Commonwealth. But we need to provide more resources to those institutions. And we also need to lean on some of the other larger entities to say, listen, we need your support and your resources. Just like when people talk about pilots in reference to universities and providing dollars back to the city of Philadelphia, we should also be doing to some of these larger institutions that have a lot of dollars, a lot of money, and they should be investing and providing resources to help these smaller institutions, many who do lending that they don't do, that enable them to have information and opportunities to grow. That was the whole purpose of creating that Philadelphia Business Lending Network, and part of the purpose of the Philadelphia Public Financial Authority, to fill in the gaps in the areas that large institutions just simply do not use or take advantage of, or provide the services that are needed for so many businesses, especially unusual, hard to lend to businesses, Black and brown businesses, as well as others in the city of Philadelphia.
Thank you for that. And we've kind of moved into sort of like, public-private partnerships. I just read an article this morning about Wells Fargo's $40 million investment in, I think they called it growing minority developers or something like that. And so they gave it to 3 different CDFIs, including our local reinvestment fund. to prioritize Black developers and resources they needed to really become competitive with the predominant developers. So great. What are your plans to oversee the banks that hold our residents and businesses deposits to ensure their safety and compliance under the fair lending and community reinvestment laws? You may also, in light of the Silicon Valley, speak to that too, that issue.
Well, that was a situation with Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank where they were overly leveraged into areas that created a run on that bank. But we should be using the Office of the Treasurer to look at banks, and as a former banker, I have some knowledge of this perspective, but also those entities that receive dollars from the city of Philadelphia or city-related entities, how are they using those dollars to really help local businesses and also residents, not only making investments and saying, we need you to help us to get more information out to our citizens, especially on programs like earned income tax credits and other programs, but also what are you doing to really help provide lending to hard to lend to entities, and how will you help work with us with the Philadelphia Public Financial Authority as a way to provide more access to credit?
Okay. All right. So those are the questions that we have for you, but let me leave it open for you now to share. Let's start with just sort of, why do you want this job?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the last question.
Why do you want the job of mayor of the city of Philadelphia?
Well, it's quite simple that, Philadelphians should expect more and deserve better from our city. And we've seen the lack of leadership from the issue of this created water crisis that this current administration has done, from the issues of just like the Philadelphia Public Financial Authority, which was a big idea and a creative idea that we need to bring to the city of Philadelphia. But all of these issues are interconnected. The issues of gun violence and public safety, tying to education, tying to small businesses. One of the reasons why I promote this idea, and I think it's such an important idea, to provide access to credit to so many hard to lend to entities, because if you can grow Black and brown businesses and hard to lend to entities, that's going to help to grow jobs in our city, help us to address the poverty in our city, as well as provide more dollars for those to either buy a home or invest in an existing home, which also ties into the issues of public safety. So when we think about who should be the next mayor of the city of Philadelphia, the 100th mayor, the question that many people need to ask is who has the background, the vision, the experience, and the leadership to move the city of Philadelphia forward. From my experience, not only being a member of city council, but also being a national leader as national president, Democratic municipal officials, executive committee member of the National League of Cities, but also having had those experiences of being an assistant district attorney who was once racially profiled. The fact I taught in the school district when I was in law school, and had a chance to see the gift of education that my mother and others who taught in the school district had provided. And then the last issue is poverty. The fact that we have this entity that's not being utilized like it should be utilized, but all of these things all tie together. I think it's important that the next mayor has actual lived experiences in all those three areas that are critical for the future of the city of Philadelphia. And that's why I should be the 100th mayor of the city of Philadelphia, because I truly believe Philadelphians should expect more and deserve better from our city.
Thank you for that. All right, I think we've got at least a couple of questions in the chat. Nicole, can you give us one of those?
Yeah, I'll rerun. Hi, Derek, how are you?
Okay.
So the question here is, how would you respond to the mayor's claim that there are already enough institutions in the city that can do the work that the PPFA is doing? And then related to that, do you think that the existing institutions, for example, like the PIDC, do you think they need to be restructured in any way to make them more, the question here reads community oriented and transparent, but I might even say community led. Like, what are we doing to put our residents and our communities in the driver's seat of some of these economic development decisions?
Well, that first question is laughable as someone who's never actually worked in a bank to be able to make that type of statement when they have no true knowledge of how banking operates. The fact that when we spent all the time to create the Philadelphia Public Financial Authority, it was based on the fact that so many entities are hard to lend to entities. And that's why we created it the way we did, doing the research, working with Holland Knight and the mayor's own law department and treasurer's office. So the fact that we already have these entities just shows his lack of knowledge. And we've already seen his lack of leadership from his actions as mayor, unfortunately, and held many of us hostage and not providing the leadership that we need. in reference to some of the other institutions like PIDC, we need to be having a broader conversation about some of the people who are on that board. I know when I first came into office, I simply asked for the bylaws of the Philadelphia Industrial Development Corporation, and you would have thought I asked for some type of super secret MI6 Tom Cruise Mission Impossible information, and I'm a member of City Council. So we need to have people that have diverse backgrounds, especially in finance, from some of our non-traditional lenders, our community development financial institutions who have been doing lending in our city that can provide additional expertise and perspective on the issues that they see front hand in trying to help grow businesses in our city and address the poverty in the city of Philadelphia.
So, Derek, you work pretty closely with the Philadelphia Public Banking Coalition to get that legislation passed, and we thank you for that work. One of the components that will be addressed eventually, hopefully, when we have the public bank, not just the PPFA, but the public bank, is the ability to move our money out of Wall Street. Speak to that issue, and do you still feel like there's a need for that, and why, if so?
Well, I mean, that's something that we continue to explore. We've got to get the entity up and running to give it the capacity to do that. I think we can also look, and I think coming out of the SVB or our signature bank issues, that we need to continue to look at where our dollars are kept. But we also need to be thinking not just from the public bank perspective, but there are other banks that have different dynamics. So I think Amalgamated Bank, which started as a union or labor bank. So I think we need to be diversifying, and I think there's steps that we can take now as the Philadelphia Public Financial Authority is getting started to then become a public bank. So we can start taking those steps now, diversifying where our dollars go, especially as we are thinking, who do we put our dollars in as institutions in this nation? And are they giving us the best return, not only on a financial return, but also best return in reference to how we grow the city of Philadelphia?
Understood. Peter, let's go to you.
Thank you, Vanessa. And Derek, to follow that up, we've been talking about CDFIs and other kinds of banks. Philadelphia has three, what the FDIC identifies as minority depository institutions. And I'm wondering if you see a special role, and some of the things that Vanessa was just talking about moving money and having more local input for the organizations that really are invested with all of their heart and soul, as well as their money, into their local communities. A special role for the minority depository institutions, maybe as qualifying them for city depositories.
Well, I think that's an important role, that where the city can be used as an asset, as a resource to leverage the growth of those institutions who serve a vital role in the city of Philadelphia. And it's important that we use the assets that come to the city, which are assets that come from our tax dollars, both as residents as well as business owners, as a way to help grow those institutions, to partner with them to do some of the things we've talked about, which created the need for the Philadelphia Public Financial Authority. It's just unfortunate that the administration doesn't understand or have that perspective, and that's why it's a real need in our city.
Okay. So, Derek, I think I've seen your emails and you send updates on various issues. Let's go back to the safety issue. So apparently through the surveys that they've done, the gun violence seems to be top of mind with a lot of people in the city. So I believe you have like a plan. So can you talk through some of the components of your plan and just sort of start with sort of what's your maybe sort of theory about what's going on? Is it elevated?
Well, the issue is that in every forum, and I'm actually getting ready to go on a debate tonight in literally 3 minutes, I believe. But the issue of gun violence is an issue that everyone in this city talks about. Every forum I go to, either arts and culture, hospitality, economic development, this morning education, that's the issue that's top of mind for every single person. And the fact that last year we had 2,200 shootings, 74% of the victims and shooters look like me. We have to have a way of addressing gun violence in our city that deals with the fact we don't have enough police officers in our city, and we need to use the existing dollars that we have in our police budget. We also need to hire police officers that look like the city of Philadelphia, doing things like hiring bonuses, which is what Seattle is doing, as well as Baltimore and Newark. But we also got to make sure that we're holding people accountable who want to victimize people in our city. But at the same time, and that's the presence and accountability, the other two portions are opportunity and investment. And if you're someone that gets caught up in the criminal justice system, programs like The Choice is Yours need to be expanded in a much greater way, provide more opportunities, and also family sustaining jobs for individuals who need a opportunity to get out of some of the criminal justice issues that they've been dealing with. So it's a full comprehensive plan, not only dealing with the immediate issues of gun violence, but also the investments we need to make, not only in opportunities for people to get out of the criminal justice system, but investments in our schools and issues like education. And that's also part of my public safety plan as well. So it's a comprehensive plan that deals with a lot of the issues, not only the gun violence in our city.
All right, we've got a couple of more minutes, but it sounds like you need to go. So I'm going to leave you with the last words. What else would you like to tell us and the city of Philadelphia?
Well, one, it's great to be back here with members of the Philadelphia Public Banking Coalition. I hope you are holding candidates accountable in reference to whether they will support this vital issue and mission that we've been working on. And it really gives the city of Philadelphia an opportunity to be a leader. There's been so many countless calls and emails and Zooms that I've done based on the work that we've all done to create this initiative. And so I hope that, as the next mayor of the city of Philadelphia, we'll be able to move forward quickly on addressing this issue and getting the Philadelphia Public Financial Authority up and running quickly, so then we can move towards a public bank as well.
All right, we're going to let you go. Thank you, mayoral candidate Derek Green. We appreciate you joining us.
Thank you so much. Take care. Be well, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Thank you all for joining us. We are continuing to schedule meetings with the mayoral candidates. I think we've also started putting some out to the city council candidates. So stay tuned to the Philadelphia Public Banking Coalition website, and you'll see all of those listed. And you can join our mailing list to get those directly. Everybody have a great evening.